Hi, this is the Project Spark Alphabet. I'm Lady Lex UK, and today we're doing the letter D. And I have chosen for my brain tile the Dodge tile, and for my prop I've chosen the Desert Reed. So let's start off with our brain tile today, which is the Dodge tile. And now you might be familiar with this because it is part of the third person adventurer brain, which is your default brain. So let's go into him. And you'll see it starts at line 8. It says detect interactable objects in front. What this does, it detects any object that has some interactable code in it, and it highlights it yellow and puts a letter B above it so that you can interact with that object. So we're talking about objects like doors, chests, objects you can pick up, that sort of thing. But it has some little extra code so that it says else. So if you press the B and there is no interactable object in front of you, when you press the B this time, you will dodge with strafing and invulnerable tile. There we go. That's the extra little bit of code. And you might be familiar with this. Well, this is what happens if you try to interact with an object and you're not quite in the right position. You'll press B and he'll do this forward roll, which I find a little annoying. I would rather he didn't do anything if I was in the wrong position, rather than this silly forward roll. And as in terms of a dodge, it's not very good for combat either, because obviously you're rolling into your opponent and getting closer to his sword, so that doesn't seem very sensible to me. So I normally take the code out, but dodge can be a very useful combat tool, and we shouldn't dismiss it completely, and it can be quite good to give some extra moves and actions and animations for your character, making them a bit more interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this major first line. We're going to take that else out. We don't need that. And we're going to take out the B press because we're not going to make it a B. Let's make it a new control button. Let's put it on the right trigger. Okay, so when you press the right trigger, we'll now dodge. And we'll do that forward roll. Well, that's fine. But there's more to this dodge than just forward roll. Let's remove this invulnerable part as well. You can keep that or get rid of it. It just means that nobody can attack you while you're doing this move. I don't think it really makes much difference whether they do or they don't. So I'm just going to remove that. So dodge with strafing. And we're going to pick a direction. So do modifier tile in direction. And then we're going to pick a direction. We're going to go into positioning, and we're going to go into directions, and we're going to go backwards. So dodge with strafing in direction, backwards. And now when I press my right trigger, he's going to do this rather pleasing back flip. Let's just turn him. There we go. You can see the back flip from sideways, and that's pretty good actually, for all sorts of reasons. But combat, certainly in a side-scrolling adventure, a backward roll is pretty nifty. Okay, but we can do better than that. We can actually put in code that allows us to control the direction using our left stick. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, and we'll say when you move the left stick in the left direction, we're going to set our variable. I've called it direction. It's a vector variable. Direction equals, and then we'll go to positioning, directions, left. I'm going to do that for all directions. So left stick equals right direction, direction equals right, left stick equals up direction. Or say if you push up, then you'll go forwards. And if you press down, we're going to go backwards. So when you move your left stick, it's going to dodge with strafing in direction, and it's going to go, let's just grab that, there we go, it's going to go in the direction that we've chosen. So left stick down, it's going to go backwards, it's going to go forwards or right or left, depending on which direction you are pressing. So let's see that in action. Okay, so holding down my right trigger, I'm now moving to the right, and he does this lovely side step to the right, which is rather cool. And to the left, there we go. Backwards is that back flip, and forwards is that forwards flip. And you can do that. And if you jump and do it, he does this leap across. It's really cool. So jump. So hold your right trigger, jump, move left. There we go. It's more movement, more stuff that you can do. There we go. Now, if you look at his brain again, it got the with strafing. Now, what this does is it continues to face the direction that he was before. If you remove it, then what happens is when you go to do your dodge move, I'll hold the right trigger and move right. Instead of doing that side step, he's now turned and he's actually moving, and he's not actually going in the direction I want him to go. And I've lost the back flip. So I move left. I'm moving left again, and he's gone forwards this time. So you've not got as much control over it. So you do need the with strafing tile in there, otherwise it doesn't work properly. Right, you can also change the speed of the dodge. So at speed, let's do 0.3. Let's see what that does. So put 0.3 in as our speed. Right, we'll hold it down and we're going right. Whoa, slow motion. He's moving very slowly. Left. Oh, this is way too slow. We're not moving anywhere, so that's not going to be very useful at all. So let's try a faster speed. Let's try 2. That's twice normal speed. Let's see what happens when I do that. It's still slow. It's still moving slow. And the back flip. So you can walk backwards. You can see the walk backwards. There is a walk backwards that you can do. And then you'll do the back flip. There we go. And back to normal speed. Right trigger. He's doing this forward flip, side flip, and it's a little bit slower than normal. So it's up to you. You can experiment with the speed tile. You can also experiment with the distance tile. So I'll put in distance 2 this time and let's see what this does. So I'm going to move to the right, and he's not jumping as far as he did before, if you remember. And forward and back. It's not very far this time because I've only put a 2 in there. Let's put a bigger number in. Let's put 10 in. Let's see what happens when we put 10 in there. So we're going to move to the right. Oh, he's flying across. Back flip. He'll do a few more steps just to get to the right distance. Forward. And he'll slide. Woo! There we go. So forward, he'll slide. Right, he'll leap much further before he lands. And back step, he will flip and then do some steps. So it's slightly different in each direction. But interesting all the same. So there you go. You modify his movements to however you want, and that's what the modifiers for this tile will do. Okay, so I hope that was useful. Okay, now let's look at our prop for today, which is the desert reed. Now the ordinary desert reed, you can find that in your prop gallery under objects. If we go along here and get to D, and our desert reed is hiding. There it is. There it is. There's our desert reed. And it's basically a bit of bamboo, I guess. Weird looking bit of bamboo with spikes and stuff on it. It's just a plant. It has no brain. There's nothing in it. Look, completely empty. It doesn't have any animation or anything. So what I've done here is I've put some brains into our desert reeds to animate them and make them a little bit more interesting and make them look like that they're part of an environment rather than just a fixed prop. So here we have our first brain, and what I've done is I've created a timed loop to pitch our prop backwards and forwards. So it's going to lean backwards and forwards on a timer, and I've got a timer here of 4 seconds. So every 4 seconds, and with a hold of 4 seconds, it's going to pitch at a speed of 0.15. So this number after a pitch tile is the speed of that pitch, and then it's going to do a countdown timer for hold 4 and pitch it in the opposite direction. So with this code, when this line is doing its duration timer, this line is doing its hold, and when this is doing its hold, this is doing its countdown. So it's going to pitch backwards and forwards on a timer of 4 seconds. Now this one is just an ordinary desert reed, so and this group of it up here and a group of it down here in the water. As you can see what it looks like when it's not moving. There it is. Now this one I've put some randomized code in. So what I've done is I've got a random number on a 1 second loop. It will create a random number between 1 and 5, and it will also create a boolean that says move. Now it says when random number equals 1, we're going to put a move time of 0.15, random move time of 0.3, random time of 0.5, etc, etc. And this is going to when the random number is greater than 3, we're going to make the move equals false, but when the move is true, we're going to do our loop using that move time. So that loop is going to be anywhere between 0.15 and 0.5 seconds, and we're going to move it at 0.3 speed and pitch it exactly the same. So it's the same as before, and you can change these numbers, and you can change this number, and you can change that random number, and you can change these numbers to whatever you experiment with these to make them whatever you like. And again, I got a group of them on the land and a group of them in the water. And here is the same brain exactly as before, but the group I've got here, what they're going to do, they're going to move based on that master desert reed, it's random number, so they're all going to move together and not independently randomly. So let's see what those different brains are going to do to our reeds. Okay, let's go over to this one here. This is our reed that we've got moving backwards and forwards on a 4 second time loop. As you can see, on land that doesn't look particularly realistic, but in the water, imagine it in the water, that looks like it's moving along with the tide, so that's pretty good. That creates an animated effect and then creates a sort of tidal effect in the water, so you get everything moving. Imagine lots of different plants, not just the desert reeds, but lots of plants in the water all moving like that. It will show you a sort of tidal effect under the water there. This is what the desert reed looks like. You just plonk them in your world normally, and they're not moving about. This is our randomized reed. As you can see, they're sort of shaking and moving about a bit, and they're randomized, so it looks a bit natural. This is probably more useful for creating sort of animated animals or characters or what have you moving about, because it creates a randomized effect. It doesn't really look like the wind is catching them or the water is catching them, though in the water when you see it, it sort of creates a ripple effect, so it's not bad. It does sort of work. It makes it look like the water's swirling around the plant, so you could use that. And this one, where we've all got them all moving as the same as our first one. As you can see, it's in the water, not as effective, but on land that's quite effective as a wind effect. So it's moving to the wind. Now you have a danger of, like you can see with this prop, they're starting to lean. As you can see, the more they move, the more they lean, and you might end up with a load of them all on the floor. This can be altered so that if we take this one here, so if random is, let's just change it, so if random is equal to 4, move equals 12. If random is equal to 5, we're going to change our position so that our plant is exactly in the position it was when you first started. So we want it to pitch so that it's vertical. So we'll say up equals world up, and that should, I hope, move it back so that it's no longer lying down. Let's see. So this is all moving around, moving, and it doesn't appear to be starting to lay down, which it did before while it was moving. So that solved that little problem. So it will lean for a bit and then it will just go back to being upright. That's a handy little tip if you want, if you've got things that are moving and they start to lay down with your code. Just put it in so the randomizer, it will just go upright again. There we go. So there's our read and our little animations. I hope that's as helpful to you to make your words a little bit more interesting and look a little bit more natural perhaps. Okay, thanks for watching, and as always, keep sparking.